My name is Maya Raman, and I've always believed that staying quiet keeps the peace. I learned that when I was young, that if you smiled at the right time, laughed softly, and never took up too much space, people were less likely to find a reason to dislike you. By the time I joined Wyndham & Company Marketing, I thought I'd outgrown that habit. I was wrong. It started on a Friday afternoon. My inbox pinged with a group message from Tracy Patterson, one of the senior account leads. Birthday dinner tonight. Lucas Prime, 8 p.m. Everyone better show up, face blowing a kista. The thread exploded with replies and jokes. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if everyone actually meant me. I'd only been at the company for 8 months, and while people were polite, I was never really invited to their after-work hangouts. Then Tracy turned in her chair, flashing me her usual confident grin. You're coming too, right, Maya? You've been hiding behind those spreadsheets for months. I smiled, surprised. Sure. I'd love to. For a second, she looked pleased. Then she turned back to Cameron Reeves from sales, whispering something that made him laugh under his breath. I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe it was finally my chance to be part of the team, not just the quiet one who stayed behind when everyone else went to happy hour. By 8 o'clock, I was standing outside Lucas Prime, watching rain slide down the windows. Inside, the restaurant glowed with golden light and soft jazz. The hostess guided me toward the back, where laughter rippled through a long table that looked like a magazine ad for friendship. Tracy sat near the head of the table, sequin top glittering beneath the chandeliers. Around her were familiar faces from work: Cameron, Nora, Jeff, Amira, a few from HR I barely knew. Maya. Tracy called out brightly when she spotted me. You made it. Every head turned my way. I smiled, clutching my purse a little tighter, and walked toward them. 2 chairs were open, one near Tracy, one all the way at the end by the swinging kitchen doors. I started toward the closer one. Cameron laughed, his tone playful but sharp. Oh, that side's for family. The table erupted in light giggles. For a moment, I just stood there, heat rising in my face. Then I smiled, pretending not to mind. Right. Got it. I'll sit here. The chair at the end felt like a separate table entirely. Every few seconds, the door swung open, letting out a wave of noise and the smell of detergent. From my spot, their conversation was a blur of laughter and stories I wasn't part of. When the waiter came to take orders, I quietly asked for water and gnocchi. Just water? Tracy asked. Come on, get a drink. I'm driving, I said. She smiled like she pitied me, then turned back to Cameron, already telling a new story. Halfway through the meal, Tracy decided it was time for photos. Group picture, she said, holding up her phone. Everyone leaned in, laughing, pressing shoulders together. I stood up automatically, ready to join, but Cameron lifted his hand. Hey, could you take it for us, Maya? It was said so casually that I froze for a second. Everyone else smiled like it was the most natural thing in the world. I took the photo, 11 happy faces, all framed perfectly, my own reflection faint and ghost-like in the screen. When I handed the phone back, no one even said thank you. By dessert, I was counting the minutes until I could leave. I figured I'd cover my part of the bill, thank Tracy, and disappear quietly. But when the waiter approached with the leather folder, he didn't hand it to Tracy or Cameron. He set it in front of me. Here's the check, ma'am. I blinked. Oh, I didn't. Cameron leaned back, smirking. Maya said she's got this one. Laughter burst around the table again. Tracy waved him off like she was embarrassed for me. Cam, stop, you'll scare her. The waiter, clearly uncomfortable, opened the folder anyway. My stomach dropped. The total stared up at me, $2,237.84. I looked around the table, waiting for someone to speak, to say it was a joke. No one did. They all just watched, sipping their drinks, amused. There must be some mistake, I said quietly. Tracy tilted her head. Oh, come on, Maya. You did say you wanted to treat us sometime. What's one dinner, right? Her tone was sugar, but her eyes were cold. The waiter hesitated. Should I split it? No one else moved. No one reached for their wallet. The air felt thick with expectation, and I understood that this wasn't about the money. It was about making sure I knew where I stood. My hands were trembling when I pulled out my card. Fine, I said softly. Run it. The waiter took it without a word. The sound of the card machine clicking felt louder than the music. When he returned with the receipt, Tracy raised her glass. To generosity. Everyone cheered. I smiled because that's what you do when people humiliate you in public. You pretend it's all fine, that you're part of the joke, not the punchline. Outside, the rain had turned to mist. The cold air hit my face like a slap. I walked to my car on autopilot, the number repeating in my head, 223784. My banking app confirmed the charge before I even made it home. I sat on my couch, still in my dress, staring at nothing. I could dispute it. I could call the restaurant. But I was too tired to fight. I told myself it wasn't worth the energy, that it would only make things worse at work. The next morning, Tracy posted the group photo on Instagram. Her caption read, "Family isn't blood. It's who makes you feel at home. #blessed #workfam." The picture was perfect, warm lighting, clinking glasses, smiles that didn't reach their eyes. I was nowhere in it. I stared at that photo for a long time, feeling the same numb disbelief I'd felt as the waiter set the check down in front of me. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. "Ms. Rahman," a man's voice said. "This is Eli Torres, manager at Lucas Prime. I hope I'm not calling at a bad time." My stomach tightened. "No, it's fine. I'm calling because I reviewed a charge from your table Friday night. Something didn't sit right. The servers noted that your colleagues told them you insisted on paying the entire bill, twice. I double-checked the security footage, and that clearly wasn't the case." The room went still around me. "So, it wasn't a mistake," I said quietly. "No, ma'am. I've already reversed the charge. The refund should show up within 2 business days. I'm truly sorry this happened." I swallowed hard. "You didn't have to do that. Thank you. It's the least I can do," Eli said. His voice was calm, steady. "People shouldn't get away with treating others like that. You deserved better." We talked for a few minutes, his tone kind but professional. Before hanging up, he said, "If you ever want to come back, call me directly. I'll make sure you're treated the way you should have been." That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't stop replaying it all, the laughter, the pity, the way no one said a word as I paid their bill. I realized the refund didn't make it right. Money wasn't what they took from me. It was dignity. I opened my laptop and started typing. Not an email. Not a complaint. Just notes, names, dates, screenshots, and the time of Eli's call. I didn't know yet what I'd do with it, but I knew one thing for certain. If they thought that dinner was over, they were wrong. It was just the beginning. The following Monday, I walked into the office like nothing had happened. The same people who'd laughed at that table waved and smiled as if we were best friends again. Tracy was at the coffee machine, talking about how amazing her birthday weekend had been. When she saw me, she grinned. "Maya. Thanks again for coming. You were such a trooper." I smiled. "Of course. Glad you had fun." She didn't notice the way my voice flattened around the words. She never did. I poured my coffee and returned to my desk, where my inbox was already full of campaign revisions and deadlines. Normal life resumed, but my mind wasn't in it. Every time I saw their faces, I heard that laughter again, "This side's for family." By noon, the refund from Lucas Prime hit my account. Seeing that money return didn't make me happy. It made me colder. I looked at the notification for a long time before deleting it. I wasn't going to let it end there. For 2 days, I didn't say a word. I just watched. Observed. The office hierarchy had always been clear. Tracy was the queen bee, Cameron her echo, Nora the gatekeeper. They kept their circle tight, made everyone else orbit around them. But for all their confidence, they were careless. They gossiped loudly, left meeting notes open on shared drives, bragged in Slack channels they thought no one paid attention to. That Wednesday, I started a quiet collection: screenshots, messages, timestamps. Nothing illegal, nothing invasive. Just breadcrumbs. Because sometimes, if you line up the small things people say when they think no one's listening, you start to see the shape of who they really are. Late one afternoon, I was in a conference room finishing up a presentation when I overheard Cameron talking to a new intern. "Tracy's got the Henderson pitch next week," he said, chuckling. "I might just let her crash and burn this time. She's been milking her team player act too long." I looked up from my laptop and met his eyes through the glass. He froze. I smiled, just enough to make him uncomfortable, then went back to my slides. People like him only understand power when it's mirrored back at them. That evening, I got an email from Eli, the manager from Lucas Prime. "Hi Maya, just checking in, wanted to make sure the refund posted and everything was resolved. Also, I wanted to apologize again. I spoke to our regional manager about what happened. We've put a note on the company's account in case they ever book again." I replied. "Thanks, Eli. It did. And don't apologize. You did more than most people would have. I really appreciate it." He wrote back almost immediately. "If you ever want to come back for dinner, on me, I'd like to make it up to you properly." I stared at that message for a while. There was no pity in his tone, no agenda. Just kindness. I wasn't used to that. I didn't go right away, but I kept thinking about that offer. About how easy it was for strangers to show more decency than people I saw every day. The next week, I noticed small cracks forming in Tracy's circle. During a project meeting, she presented numbers that didn't add up. Nora corrected her, politely but firmly, and Tracy's smile faltered. Later, I overheard Cameron arguing with her about missed commissions. Apparently, she'd taken credit for a deal he'd closed months ago. I didn't start any of it. I didn't have to. People like them always self-destruct. All I did was remove the silence that protected them. When Friday rolled around again, Tracy sent another group message: team dinner. New campaign celebration. Let's hit the same place, Lucas Prime. 8 p.m. The audacity almost made me laugh. After everything, she wanted to go back there. I typed a quick response: can't make it tonight. Have plans? Tracy replied with a winking emoji. Boring. You need to live a little, Maya. I smiled at the screen. Don't worry. I will. That evening, instead of heading home, I called Eli. So, I said, about that dinner offer. Is it still open? He laughed softly. Of course. What time works for you? 8. When I arrived, the restaurant looked different than before, brighter somehow, less like a place of humiliation and more like a stage that had been reset for a new act. Eli greeted me himself, leading me to a small table near the bar. I kept this one aside for you, he said. I thanked him, still uneasy but grateful. For the first time in weeks, I ate without feeling like I had to shrink myself to fit someone else's comfort. When Eli stopped by near the end of my meal, I thanked him again, not just for the refund or the table, but for treating me like a person. He shrugged modestly. Sometimes people just need someone to stand up for them, even if it's in small ways. I nodded. That night, they made me feel like I didn't belong anywhere. You made me feel like maybe I did. After I left, I sat in my car for a while, thinking. Revenge didn't always have to be loud. Sometimes the quiet kind, the kind that unfolds naturally, slowly, with a little nudge, was stronger. By Monday, rumors had started spreading through the office. Someone from accounting mentioned that a complaint had been filed with HR about the birthday dinner incident. Tracy looked tense in meetings. Cameron avoided eye contact with me entirely. I never said a word, never confirmed anything. But when HR called me in later that week, I told the truth. Calmly. Factually. No embellishments. I showed them the receipt, the messages, the proof that the restaurant had confirmed the manipulation. The HR rep, Kendra, looked stunned. Maya, this is serious. Why didn't you come forward sooner? I thought staying quiet would make it go away, I said. But silence only protects the wrong people. She nodded, taking notes. We'll handle it. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry you went through that. I walked out of that office lighter than I'd felt in weeks. The next few days were tense. Tracy stopped posting selfies at work. Cameron's usual smirk disappeared. People whispered in corners but no one said anything to me directly. It was like the air had shifted, a silent acknowledgement that something had changed. The following Friday, I got another email, this time from upper management. A meeting invite. Subject line, team reorganization, attendance required. When I walked in, Tracy was already there, pale and tight-lipped. HR sat beside the director, and Cameron was pacing near the window. They didn't look so invincible anymore. The director began, after reviewing several internal reports and corroborating statements, we've made the decision to restructure the team. Effective immediately, Tracy Patterson will be stepping down from her role. Cameron Reeves will transition to a different department. Tracy didn't look at me. Cameron muttered something under his breath, but no one responded. When the meeting ended, I packed my laptop, ready to leave for the weekend. Tracy brushed past me in the hallway, her perfume sharp and familiar. She stopped for a second. You really couldn't let it go, could you? I met her eyes. You should have thought about that before you handed me that check. She glared, then walked off without another word. That night, I drove home in silence. The city lights flickered across the windshield, and for the first time, I didn't feel invisible. I wasn't the quiet girl in the corner anymore. I wasn't the one sitting at the end of the table, waiting to be noticed. I was the one who'd learned to stand up, even if it took being humiliated to find my voice. And though no one else would ever know exactly how it happened, I knew one thing for sure: the dinner they thought they'd gotten away with had cost them far more than $2,000. It had cost them their comfort, their control, and their illusion of being untouchable. In the weeks that followed, the office felt like a different place. Tracy's desk sat empty, the monitor dark. Cameron avoided everyone, moving like a ghost between cubicles. HR announced that the team restructuring was complete, but no one talked about it openly. Everyone knew what had happened, or at least, they thought they did. People started treating me differently. Some out of guilt, others out of curiosity. I got polite smiles, quick nods, and a few whispered, "good for you," comments in the break room. I didn't need their approval, but I noticed how fast respect appears when you stop asking for it. One afternoon, Kendra from HR stopped by my desk. "Hey, Just so you know, she said quietly, that issue we talked about, it's officially closed. Management commended how you handled it. Grace under pressure, they called it. Grace under pressure, I repeated with a small smile. I'll take it. After she left, I leaned back in my chair, staring at my reflection in the black edge of my screen. I didn't look different, but I felt it. Something in me had shifted, a kind of quiet confidence that didn't need permission anymore. That Friday, Eli texted me. Hey Maya, just checking in. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing okay. I hesitated before replying. I'm better than okay. Thanks to you, things worked out. He sent a smile emoji. Glad to hear it. You should stop by sometime. Dinner's on me, again. That weekend, I did. Not out of obligation, but because I wanted to see the place where everything had changed. When I walked into Luca's Prime this time, I wasn't nervous. The hostess recognized me instantly. Welcome back, Ms. Rahman, she said warmly. Mr. Torres has your table ready. Eli met me near the bar, wearing the same calm smile as before. You picked the right night, it's quieter than usual. I followed him to a corner booth near the window. It was perfect, not too exposed, not too hidden. I could see the city lights flickering outside, reflections dancing across the glass. We talked about normal things, movies, food, how exhausting corporate life could be. It was easy. I'd forgotten how simple it could feel to talk to someone without pretending to be smaller than I was. When the check came, Eli slid it toward himself. This one's on me, he said again. No arguments this time. I laughed. You're stubborn. Only when it matters. When I left, I thanked him again. As I walked to my car, I passed the long table near the back, the one where everything had started. A new group sat there, loud and happy, raising their glasses. For a second, I felt a twinge of déjà vu. Then I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. That table didn't represent humiliation anymore, it represented a turning point. The next week at work, I got called into the director's office. Maya, he said, we've been reviewing leadership changes. Given how well you handled the Henderson transition, we'd like you to step into the senior account manager role. I blinked, stunned. I don't know what to say. Say yes, he said, smiling. You've earned it. I said yes. When I left the office that day, I passed Tracy's old glass-walled office. It was still empty, waiting for a new nameplate. I paused for a moment, thinking about how things come full circle, how sometimes, the best revenge isn't ruining someone else's life, but rebuilding your own better than they imagined you could. A few days later, my phone buzzed with a message request on Instagram. It was from Tracy. I stared at her profile picture, the same practiced smile, though the background had changed. She wasn't at Wyndham anymore. Her message was short. Hope you're doing well. Miss our team dinner's winking face. I laughed out loud, shaking my head. Then I typed back. Thanks, but I've got my own table now. I hit send and didn't wait for a reply. That weekend, I invited a few colleagues, the quiet ones, the ones who never got included in team drinks, to dinner. We picked a cozy diner, not fancy, but warm. We ordered pancakes and coffee, laughed over stupid work stories, and no one cared who sat where. Halfway through, Nora raised her mug. To new beginnings, she said. I lyfted mina. To better tables. They laughed, not knowing the full story behind those words. That was fine. Some stories don't need to be retold, they just need to end well. As I drove home that night, I passed Luca's Prime again. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of another company group, maybe just like mine had been once, loud, laughing, a little too sure of themselves. I smiled faintly. Some lessons people have to learn the hard way. At home, I poured a glass of wine and sat by the window, watching the city lights blink across the skyline. I thought about how strange it was, how humiliation, when met with silence, can linger for years. But when you face it, when you refuse to let it define you, it transforms into something else. Strength. The next morning, I woke up to an email from corporate. Congratulations on your promotion. We're proud to have you as a leader. I stared at the screen, feeling that same quiet pride bloom again. I thought back to the girl sitting alone at the end of the table, pretending she wasn't hurt, paying a $2,200 bill she didn't owe. I wanted to tell her it was going to be okay. That she'd find her voice. That the people who once looked down on her would one day look up instead. Months later, Eli and I met again, this time not as a restaurant manager and customer, but as two people who'd both learned something about fairness. Over coffee, he asked, "Do you ever think about that night anymore?" I smiled. "Only when I need to remind myself how far I've come." He nodded, then raised his cup. "To lessons in disguise." I clinked mine gently against his. "To lessons," I said. As I walked out of the cafe into the crisp afternoon air, I realized I wasn't just walking away from the past, I'd rewritten it. That table wasn't for me before because I was never meant to sit at it. I was meant to build my own. They said the table was for family. They were right. Just not theirs. Sometimes the tables turn when you least expect it. Maya didn't need to fight or shout, she just let truth do the work. Because real revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting free. If this story moved you, don't forget to tap that like button and hit subscribe to Revenge Sekar for more powerful true life revenge and emotional storytelling every day.